Australia is one of the least inhabited continents on Earth. And most of us live on the green coastal fringes of this island continent. Out here, there are literally hundreds of thousands of square kilometres of pure wilderness. The climate was too tough, the terrain too rugged to ever really be settled by Europeans. And that's just one exceptional facet of the epic journey I'm about to embark on. Outback Spirit run a fascinating 1,800-kilometre expedition down the legendary Canning Stock Route. And while the cattle are long gone, the fascinating history behind the longest stock route on Earth has been wonderfully preserved by extreme isolation. G'day, I'm Frankie J. Holden, and I'd like to invite you on an expedition down the legendary Canning Stock Route through 4 of the most beautiful deserts in the country. The Tanami way up there, the Little Sandy Desert, the Great Sandy Desert, and the Gibson way down there. We'll be following in the footsteps of the drovers for whom this desert track was created. What's there to see in a desert, I hear you ask? There's actually a lot to see. The Canning Stock Route is full of stunning landscapes, history, and it's beautifully wild. It's also one of the most iconic 4x4 tracks in the country, a bucket list item for many people, and at last, there's a comfortable way to see it. I'm on this expedition with Outback Spirit Tours, and frankly, when you're venturing into an area as remote as this one, you'll want to be with the best in the business. You shouldn't even attempt an adventure like this without the appropriate vehicle, and these are just about the ultimate. They're Mercedes-Benz G-Wagons, and they're built to military specifications. Underneath the bonnet, there's a 3.5 litre turbo diesel powering 6 wheels. That's right, 6-wheel drive. So there's nowhere that these vehicles won't be able to get you into, and more importantly, get you out of. The Australian Army has about 2,000 of these vehicles, and the only ones in private hands belong to Outback Spirit. The level of preparation required to complete the Canning Stock Route is beyond the reach of most people. And even with the right equipment, you'll never be able to do it in this sort of luxury. Tour leader Brendan Eblin has done the trip 16 times. No one knows the Canning like he does.
Okay, this looks a bit tough, we better get into it.
It's got quite a peak on it and some off-kilter little dig outs halfway up to the top.
Over there, Dan, we're clear.
There must be an incredible amount of planning goes into this journey.
Yeah, there's a lot of planning goes into it, Frank. And as well prepared as you want to be coming down the Canning Stock Route, it's still going to throw you up challenges. We carry a full range of parts. We've got a mobile workshop in the trailer behind the car, and we're able to conduct most repairs on the track.
And there must be a lot of backroom support as well, right?
Yeah, they're not just out here alone. We've got satellite telephones that give us direct communication with Albury and our depot in Broome, where our mechanical assistance is available to us. No matter where we are out here on the track, we get going again.
That's part of the Outback Spirit difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that total support for the passenger's security and comfort that gets us down the road and back into depot.
In order to make camp life comfortable, the convoy also carries a mobile kitchen, flushing toilets and showers. All of the vehicles received special additional engineering before they went into service with Outback Spirit, especially this one. It features a couple of loos and hot showers, carries about 1,200 litres of water, and even retains its own effluent for up to 7 days. It's an engineering masterpiece, and it makes coming out to these more remote parts of Australia so much more enjoyable. Well, it's a lonesome away from your kindred and all, by the campfire at night, where the lone dingoes call. But there's nothing so lonesome, morbid or drear, than to stand in the bar of the pub with no beer. We won't be short of anything out here, and the catering is first class. The crew have a complete kitchen equipped with 7 fridges, so you'll be eating beautiful fresh food and washing it down with something cold every night. Outback Spirit have basically set up the ultimate outback adventure. So all you have to worry about is soaking up the atmosphere and history of the Canning stock route. All along this incredible journey, the story of both the Indigenous people that lived out here and that of the stockmen reveals itself in incredible ways. Old wells, Aboriginal artefacts and paintings leave you feeling like you've just stepped back 100 years. The track we're following was surveyed as a stock route back in the early 1900s by a bloke called Alfred Canning. And how he did it has to rate as one of the greatest feats of early Australian exploring. To paint the picture, I've drawn this little mud map here. Now, believe it or not, this is Australia. Here's the story. In the early 1900s, gold was discovered in Kalgoorlie and population was booming. The issue was that cattle, that is food, were up here in the north, in the West Kimberley and in the East Kimberley. The cattle from the East Kimberley were not allowed to travel through the West Kimberley, so they had to find a route from the East Kimberley all the way down to the goldfields, through the hottest, driest continent on Earth. And a bloke by the name of Alfred Canning put his hand up and said, "I'll do that for you." How hard can that be? Well, it's actually very hard. Canning had to find enough water to feed 800 cattle a day's walk apart over the whole 1,800 kilometre journey. And once he'd found and mapped those locations, he then had to build the 52 wells that would make it all possible. It's impressive stuff. From 1906 through to the 1950s, the stock route was used. And the guys would pull up here to feed their cattle. Now, back in those days, they would use camels to draw up the 400-litre bucket. Well, I've only got these two, but in the bush, you just got to make do. Is that water still okay for drinking?
Yeah, this is fine, Frank. We'll pump it through our filtration system into our unit.
That's how they would feed the cattle and the horses and the film crew. You guys can have a drink now. The stock route is 1,800 kilometres long and would have been an incredible challenge for Canning back in the day. I'll bet he wished he had vehicles like these. There's no aircon on a camel. This is one of the 4x4 vehicles. Generally there's 2 of them in each convoy, and there's also 2 6-wheel drive vehicles. And in terms of comfort, nothing I've seen even comes close. All the passenger seats are full-size coach seats with armrest. There's plenty of legroom, they're very spacious, great visibility and individual air conditioning controls. All the campsites on this trip have been special in their own way, but there's one place that captures the spirit of the Canning like no other. It's Durbar Springs. Dick Smith reckons that Durbar's one of the prettiest spots in Australia. It's hard not to agree with him, isn't it?
Oh, couldn't agree more. It's an easy comment to make if you've been here and understand when you arrive here just this surprising oasis after a long drive over some pretty tough country. And this just presents you with a place of rest. Beautiful place. I'd like to show you a couple of little items here, Frank. These are notes from people that have visited here many, many years ago. These are really like postcards from the past.
The earliest one I can see there is 1906. Who would that be?
That's Hubert Stanlake Trotman. He was Canning's 2IC. They were a team that worked on the rabbit-proof fence project. It was where Canning was recruited from for the Canning stock route.
It's just imbued with history, and to come and see those engravings there, physical evidence of the work that those guys did. I mean, look, it's, you know, the hairs on my arm are standing up. I'm getting a chill down the back of my spine.
Well, you get it here, Frank, but you get it on the whole of a stock route. I've done 16 trips prior to this, and I still get that same feelings. We're travelling in very luxurious accommodation and vehicles, but we're removed from those vehicles at a moment, and you think about what we might be enduring when we're not in the cars. We're walking down the track, we're walking in the footsteps of those people. And we're really experiencing the sense of the Canning stock route, the country, the vegetation, the landscapes. It's a beautiful place. And the story that goes with it, on top of it, it's just a total package.
The Outback Spirit guides know and love this track, and they pass on their knowledge every day.
These are my favourite because they just look beautiful in the wind, with the light going through it of an afternoon.
It's as though they're dancing.
It is, yeah, exactly. This is a plant called the cat scratch acacia. The Indigenous people used to use this to start fires, and the wood is one of the strongest in Australia, and they used it for spear making. A very useful plant.
It struck me as amazing that Australia is probably 40 or 50% desert, and yet probably only 10% of Australians have ever seen it.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing, isn't it? There's so much to see once you get here.
This place has given me a completely new view of what our deserts are really like. I had no idea this is what I'd find out here. Every well we visit reveals a little more history, but well 18 is special because Outback Spirit paid for its restoration and we'll be picking up water here.
Righto, Stu. Well 18 is the well that Outback Spirit have contributed to track care to have it restored to the state we're finding it in today.
The water's remarkably clear. Where's it coming from?
It's coming from the Percival Lakes aquifer, which is second only to the Great Artesian Basin, and this would have had a recharge rate of 2,000 gallons an hour. You can see it's so clear and clean, and it's used by many travellers along the stock route, not just us. They need to be cared for so we don't lose this wonderful opportunity to have this water supply for others that will come behind us.
Outback Spirit are proud to contribute to the preservation of the Canning stock route. I guess the fact I'm travelling in such comfortable conditions puts a little rosy spin on this place, but it must have been very hard for the early explorers in this area. In fact, many perished on these journeys. One that didn't was a bloke called Frank Hann, who named the next incredible stop on our journey. Hann was an explorer of some note, and his motto was never yield to despair. He was out here looking for pastoral land and, of course, water. Now imagine his excitement, imagine his anticipation when he came across Savoury Creek and followed its twists and bends, expecting it to turn into a huge inland lake, and instead, it turns into a huge salt lake. I bet he found it hard to live up to his motto then. Imagine the despair. Imagine the anguish. No wonder he called it Lake Disappointment. Well, I'm expecting Brendan to have a nice hot cup of tea and a piece of fruitcake for me back at the camp. And I know I won't be disappointed. Tonight we're camping on the banks of this stunning lake. And if you're not in the mood for tea and fruitcake, how about a pre-dinner nibble and a little glass of white? And Georgina did confess to me that today you had a little tear in your eye as we pulled into a section of the track. Well, why was that?
I did. Well, I've just been wanting to do the Canning stock route, and I knew the only way I could do it was with Outback Spirit. And I booked in last year, and I told my friends I was coming, and they said, "Are you going to do it on a horse or a camel?" And I said, "Well, I hope I'm going to do it in beautiful comfort and Mercedes four-wheel drives."
And that's how it's turned out.
And that's how it's turned out. It's been a fantastic trip.
The other great revelation has been the camaraderie and friendships I've built out here. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're my brown-eyed girl. Oh, I love you. Right, who's next? There's something about camping in the desert that really brings people together. I'm amazed at the variety of the landscapes out here, particularly the plant life. It's just incredible.
It's like travelling through somebody's garden. Incredible diversity. I think that's the one key thing. Textures, colours, shades of green, a different selection of plants, just nature's done it. So you're not going to sit there through the stock route journey and think, oh, it's more of that. It's different, it's diverse, and it's constantly changing. And then you're confronted with the different landscapes, the formations, the evidence of the inland sea. It's a remarkable place and a remarkable story. And you look at a map of Australia when you get home, I'm sure, and I just look how remote you've been and how secure you are. It's pretty special. And to know in the back of your mind you're travelling with some pretty specialised people in some pretty specialised vehicles. It's quite an amazing journey.
Hey, thanks for bringing me out here, mate. I really appreciate it.
Frank. Good to have you along. You're a good fella.
The Canning Stock Route is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and what Outback Spirit have achieved out here makes it even more special. They've kept all the adventure, but added a level of comfort you would never imagine possible. I'm a bit in awe of Alfred Canning, who in 1906, when they said we want someone to survey a cattle route between the East Kimberley and Kalgoorlie, he said, yeah, I'll have a crack. Having done it now, I can see that the Canning Stock Route remains one of the great Australian adventures, and it's still a challenge. I didn't know what to expect when I started, but what I got was an adventure beyond my expectations. And I'm glad I went with people who knew where they were going, knew what they were talking about, and most importantly, knew what they were doing. And you know what? Like Alfred Canning, I reckon you would have a crack.